Part 2. The Survivor Who Watched the World Go Still. Before we go any further, I need you to understand something about the man whose account you're about to hear. Most people who stayed awake during those nights fell into two groups, those who hid and those who broke. But he watched, not out of bravery or curiosity or defiance. He watched because he couldn't not watch. His name was Jonas Hallberg, 48 years old, a maintenance worker at a hydroelectric plant in northern Sweden, a man whose life, until the 3 nights, could not have been more ordinary. Long shifts, coffee strong enough to burn the bitter out of winter mornings, a quiet, predictable existence, which, perhaps, is why he noticed the silence sooner than most. The first night began with a power fluctuation at the plant. Nothing dramatic, just a brief dip on the meters. Jonas thought it was an equipment issue, but when he radioed the others for assistance, nobody answered. Not because the radios were malfunctioning, because every worker on site had fallen into an unnatural, dreamless sleep within seconds of each other. He found them slumped over consoles, collapsed in hallways, lying on the floor as if someone had drained their strings. Pulse steady, breathing deep, eyelids twitchless. He checked the nearest monitoring station. Every city light on the valley display, tens of thousands of residential grids, dimmed to low consumption levels at the same moment. To Jonas, it felt as if the world had exhaled and forgotten to inhale again. He tried calling emergency services, nothing. He checked the radios, the landlines, the staff phones, all dead. That was the moment he stepped outside. He described it to me in a whisper, as if the memory itself was something that still listened for him in the dark. He said the wind had stopped, not slowed, stopped, as if the movement of the air was an indulgence the world could no longer afford. Snowflakes hung suspended like dust motes, drifting so slowly they might as well have been frozen in time. The valley below him was a soft ocean of sleeping roofs, every window black, every chimney still, and above it all, the sky had taken on a strange metallic undertone, not brighter, not darker, just altered, like a bruise beneath the clouds. For the first night, Jonas wandered in confusion, believing something catastrophic had happened. A gas leak, a biological event, an attack, anything with an explanation rooted in human error. It was on the second night that he stopped looking for human explanations, because that was when he saw them. He first noticed the movement at the edge of the forest, a silhouette gliding between the trees, tall enough to be a man, but too narrow, too fluid in its posture, as if its limbs obeyed a different arrangement of joints. It paused at the tree line, then stepped out into the open. Jonas said it moved like water being poured uphill, smooth, effortless, purposeful, as if gravity was a suggestion, not a rule. The creature walked directly toward the first farmhouse, not rushed, not hesitant, studying. It leaned close to the window, tilting its head like a listener trying to catch a faint melody. Then it placed one long, impossibly thin hand against the glass. Jonas said the window fogged instantly. From the inside, he watched in horrified stillness as it traced a small circle with its fingertip, a symbol, a mark, And as it stepped back, another figure emerged from the forest. Then another. Dozens! They spread across the valley with quiet precision, each approaching sleeping homes, pausing, listening, marking, then moving on in coordinated arcs like surveyors mapping an unseen structure. Jonas tried to run at first. The human instinct to flee was stronger than any curiosity. But something, perhaps shock, perhaps the cold logic of survival, made him stop. If he ran, he might draw their attention. If he hid, he might be found. If he followed them quietly, he might learn why they were here. It was this last impulse that altered the course of his life. And ours. He spent the second night shadowing their path through the valley, careful to keep his distance, careful not to let the crunch of snow betray him. He noticed patterns. Every creature paused at the same angle when approaching a home. Every gesture was mirrored, synchronized, as if part of a ritual older than memory. And then came the sound, a low, vibrating hum that did not come from their bodies, but from the air itself. A resonance that trembled through Jonas's teeth, down his spine, into the marrow of his bones. A sound that made his eyes water and his vision blur at the edges. He told me that it felt like being observed not from the outside, but from within, as if something behind his own thoughts was turning its head. By the time dawn approached, or whatever passed for dawn in that frozen valley, Jonas had seen enough to know the truth. These beings did not come to harm us. Not yet. They came for something far more methodical. They came to catalog us, to assess, to map, to measure. And on the third night, they expanded their search. Not just windows, not just houses. They began marking people. Jonas saw the first marking at 4:23 a.m. A shift worker asleep in his parked truck, engine still running. One of the beings placed its palm gently on the windshield, and the glass cracked in a perfect spiral around the man's face. Jonas didn't tell me what the creature did next, not in detail, but he said the shape of the man's shadow changed afterward. A shadow should follow a body. This one didn't. Not entirely. And that brings us to the final thing Jonas revealed before our interview ended. The thing that made my pulse stop cold. He wasn't the only one watching the creatures. The creatures were watching him. One of them, a taller one, its body sharper, more defined, had paused in its work halfway through the valley. It turned its head, not to the house, not to the sleeping family inside, to him, directly, as if it had known where he was the entire time. And slowly, it began to approach. Jonas fled, tripping through the snow, scrambling between vehicles, slipping on frozen asphalt. He didn't look back, not until he reached the maintenance station. He barricaded the doors. He waited. The creature never reached him. Or maybe it did, and chose not to enter. He couldn't say. But he told me this. When it looked at me, I felt like I wasn't part of the world it was walking through, like I was the anomaly. And that's what I need you to understand before we continue. If Jonas was the anomaly, what were the rest of us? Before you answer, think carefully. If something moved through our silent world, marking houses, families, and bodies, what do you think it did to the ones that didn't wake up at all? Come closer to the fire. In Part 3, we visit the places that remained awake and the recordings they left behind.